Welcome to the Friday edition of Juan's World. And I'm not sure what the future is going to hold, that is the immediate future, because several things are changing in my world, and there's also some cultural factors. I'm going to be working very closely with my publisher on a book that is technical and complicated, and I've already been through one draft, and now I'm working on a second draft based on reviewers' comments. I want to get it done this month, and it's going to be a hard job. So that's actually my topic for the day. How do you cope with a big pile of work dumped on you all at once that you need to get done without freaking out? That's my first point, and my answer is going to be baby steps, and I'll unpack that in just a minute. But I also want to mention that we are now in a new lunar month according to the Buddhist calendar, and this particular month, starting right at the beginning of September, although it was actually the full moon that marked its beginning, is the month of hungry ghosts. The hungry ghosts come out of the woodwork and attack people because they're hungry, and you have to give them food, and you have to burn incense and candles and other things and maintain a shrine to keep them preoccupied, otherwise they'll cause a lot of problems. And I don't want a lot of problems as I'm doing my editing for my publisher, so I may need to not do quite so many videos. We'll see. It doesn't take me a whole lot of time, but I'm really devoting myself to my publishing. That's going to have to come first, but I'm also going to go in baby steps. So let's just talk about how baby steps work. Now, you may know baby steps, the idea, from a Bill Murray movie, What About Bob? It's one of my favorite movies. Few movies I watch repeatedly, and that's one of them. I have a tendency to watch Bill Murray movies a lot, including Groundhog Day, which in itself is repetitious, and then I repeat the repetitions. But What About Bob has the idea of baby steps in it, but I will say that I came up with the idea, not necessarily the words, but certainly the idea, a great time before that movie came out. Decades ago, I used to take a job that I had that was big and complicated and daunting and going to take time. And instead of freaking out, I remember one time, for example, this is about 27 years ago, I had 450 illustrations for a book I was publishing, and I had a deadline of 3 months, which was essentially the summer months when I wasn't teaching at the university. And I had a 2-year-old baby who didn't sleep. And I had to do 450 illustrations. So I figured out how many days I had in total and divided the number of illustrations by the number of days. I think it worked out to about 3 or 4 illustrations a day. They weren't enormously complicated illustrations. Some of them were actually very, very complicated, but there are some that I could knock off in 10 or 15 minutes. Pen and ink drawings, but I'm trained as a draftsman, and I had a drafting table and I had pens and inks and everything all set up. Everything was fine. So I could put my son down for a nap, and he would be down for maybe 2 hours, and then I could go to my drafting table and set to work. And then he would wake up and I would go and take care of him, and then in the evening I would put him down to bed, and I would go back to the drafting table and do more work. And in fact, I got all 450 done with a few days to spare. But if you just look at the task, 450 illustrations, a child that doesn't sleep, how am I going to get it done? And the simple answer is baby steps. Get the task broken down into small, doable steps, and be happy that you've done the appropriate step, baby step, per day. You know, that would be, let's say that you had to travel, I don't know, 1,000 miles by bicycle. You look at it and you say, it's not possible. Well, how far can you travel on a bicycle in a day? Maybe 20 miles, 30 miles? Figure it out. Then say, okay, I'm going to break up my 1,000-mile journey into, let's say, 20-mile increments. I'm going to do one a day, every day. I'm not going to take a break. I'm not going to do too much one day or too little one day. I'm going to do about 20 miles each day, and I will eventually cover the 1,000 miles. If I do 4 illustrations a day, I will get them done, 450 of them, in 120 or so days, which is about the time I had. Baby steps. No time off. That's the only trouble. If you want time off, then you have to do double the amount the day before so that you can take the next day off. So that if I did want to goof off for a day, then I had to do 8 illustrations the day before. And the same works with my writing. Right now I am doing a rewrite, a complete rewrite of the book that I'm working on for my publisher. They want a major overhaul. It's 350 pages long. I'm not starting from scratch, of course, but I am having to do a lot of new work. And I've given myself the month of September to do it. Well, that's maybe a little over 300 pages. Right now I'm not sure, because I've been cutting pages out and all kinds of odds and ends like that. So let's say 300 pages, 30 days, it's 10 pages a day. Simple mathematics. If I do 10 pages, I'm done for the day. And that's also the important point. The important point is not to fret. It's not to go full steam ahead and say, oh, God, I'll do 50, I'll do 100 pages, or I'll do 70 or 60 or whatever. No, just do 10. And when you've done 10, go watch a movie, read a book, like do something else, relax. Just do everything at a slow and steady pace. Obviously, I'm going to remind you of the tortoise and the hare. I'm going to be the tortoise all the time, taking baby steps. When I taught at university, the seniors in my department all had to write a senior thesis. And it was expected that the minimum would be about 50 pages, although they're normally somewhat longer, but 50 would be adequate. And they had 2 semesters. There's not a lot to do in what's essentially 30 weeks. But the first semester was devoted to the research part. They were supposed to read whatever literature they needed to be up to date with. If they were going to do field work, they had to do their field work. If they were going to do other kinds of research, they had to do it. Fall semester. Spring semester, 15 weeks, and they have to write 50 pages. All right. Well, they did have to meet with me once a week. And right at the outset, they had to plan out the thesis. It was usually divided into about 4 chapters: an introduction, a literature review, some data, and then some conclusions. And so not that complicated. So by week 2, they could get started. Now that means they really didn't need to do more than write 1 page a day for 50 days, and they would be finished. And they would be finished well ahead of time. It would be finished well enough ahead of time that they could give me a draft, I could read it over, make comments, and they could edit and produce a second draft that they then submit to the library. How many students do you imagine did 1 page a day? I think I don't remember one. That is none. They would all happily come to me the first week and say, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll plan this out, and blah, blah, blah. To come to me the second week, have you written anything? No, not yet. I'm still debating this. Third week, have you written anything yet? No, I'm still planning, and blah, blah. And this would go on and on and on until getting towards the end of the semester, they still hadn't written anything, so that in 1 or 2 nights, or 1 day and 1 night, all of a sudden they have to produce this flurry of activity. And the product was just not all that good because it was rushed. It was done in a great hurry. If they had taken their time, if they had taken baby steps, they would have gotten everything accomplished in adequate time, and they would have produced something that was worthy of a bachelor's degree. So that's my overall lesson for today. Whatever your task is, it's writing a book, losing weight, and that's an interesting one. People think, okay, I want to lose 5 kilos. Okay. Don't imagine that you're going to lose 5 kilos today, or tomorrow, or the next day. Maybe think in terms of losing 200 grams. But every week, consistently, saving up money. When I go on a holiday, don't think, okay, I've got to tighten my belt to the point of starvation because I want to get the money all in one lump. Just think, okay, a few dollars here, a few dollars there, put them away, baby steps. For every big, daunting task you have, you can break it up into baby steps over the time that you have to accomplish the task. I can't guarantee that you'll always do it, but if you're persistent, if you don't stop, number 1, don't make your steps too big, make them manageable so that you're not grinding out work day in and day out. Make them manageable, stretched out over time, but be persistent, and you will succeed. I am living proof. I have written 9 books that way, everyone written in exactly the same way, and everyone published on time. So we'll see what's going to happen next week. If my writing gets me too caught up, I may have to reduce to once a week, but I probably not, because these videos are baby steps too, 2 a week, and I can usually fit them in somewhere. So I'll try to keep going, try to maybe do some more cooking. Big shout out to my sister too, who followed my risotto recipe, and I hope that future attempts she'll get better and better at making it creamier. And otherwise, tell your friends, like, subscribe, and I hope, see you on Tuesday.